The streets of the United Kingdom are full of history, but some have stories that refuse to stay buried. By day they are ordinary roads filled with traffic, shops, and everyday life. By night, however, they transform into places where shadows move on their own, and the echoes of the past refuse to be silent. These are streets where locals cross to the other side, where visitors report sudden chills, phantom footsteps, and whispers that seem to come from nowhere. From narrow cobblestones to forgotten alleys, every brick and lantern has witnessed tragedy, betrayal, and death. Some say the spirits of the wronged wander endlessly, seeking justice or revenge. Others speak of shadows that leap across your path or spectral carriages that thunder down fog-filled lanes. Tonight, we count down the top 10 most haunted streets in the UK, places where even the bravest hesitate to tread after dark. Keep your senses sharp, your heart steady, and your eyes open, because on these streets, the dead do not remain at rest. Some of these stories are centuries old. Some are as recent as last night. And one question remains: when you walk down these streets, will you feel something follow you home? Haunted Street Number 1. Springhill, Jack Lane, London. In the fog-choked nights of Victorian London, whispers of a strange figure spread like wildfire. He was no ordinary criminal. Witnesses described him as a tall man with glowing eyes, sharp metallic claws, and the ability to leap impossibly high over fences, rooftops, and even entire streets. The locals called him Springhill Jack, and one of the places most often tied to his appearances is a narrow, dimly lit stretch now nicknamed Springhill Jack Lane. It began in the 1830s. Residents reported hearing metallic scraping on the cobblestones just before a terrifying figure would emerge from the shadows. His breath was said to be hot and suffocating, as if he exhaled flames. His victims were often women walking alone, who described his touch as ice-cold yet burning their skin. The most unsettling part? Witnesses swore he could vanish in seconds, leaping over walls higher than a man's head, disappearing into the night without a sound. To this day, the street feels unnaturally cold even in summer. Passers-by claim they've heard the metallic clang of his boots on the pavement when no one is there. Others have seen a shadowy figure crouched high on a lamppost before vanishing into thin air. Taxi drivers refuse late-night fares to that area, warning newcomers that not everything you meet on that street will be human. Skeptics say it was all hysteria and urban legend. But those who've walked that lane alone after midnight often speak differently, if they're willing to talk at all. Number 2. Cock Lane, London. Cock Lane in London may look ordinary during the day, but step onto its narrow, uneven cobbles after dark, and the air itself feels heavier, thicker, as if carrying the weight of centuries. Its reputation for hauntings dates back to the 18th century, centered on the tragic figure of Fanny, a young woman whose life ended too soon under mysterious circumstances. Local legend tells of Fanny's restless spirit refusing to leave the property where she once lived. Those brave enough to wander the lane at night speak of a chilling series of knocks and raps on doors and windows, sudden and rhythmic, as if an invisible hand is signaling from the other side. Some say she tries to communicate, pleading for justice or warning the living of dangers long forgotten. But it is not only the knocking. Visitors have reported hearing soft, sorrowful crying, or whispers in the dark that dissolve when you strain to listen closer. Shadows move at the corner of the eye, fleeting but unmistakable, while cold spots appear without explanation, making every breath feel labored and every heartbeat louder in the silence. One account tells of a man walking the street alone, only to feel the sensation of being followed. Behind him, a pressure like someone was pacing in step, yet when he turned, the street was empty. Another visitor described seeing a translucent figure in a tattered gown float across the lane, vanishing into the mist as she reached the wall. Even today, residents claim to avoid the street after nightfall. Letters and records from centuries past hint that Fanny's spirit may not be alone. Some believe her presence attracts others, shadows of the wronged and the restless who wander in the dark, joining her in silent lament. Number 3. Pudding Lane, London. Pudding Lane might seem like any ordinary street in London today, lined with shops and cafes, but its history is soaked in fire, death, and lingering spirits. It is most famous as the starting point of the Great Fire of London in 1666. The blaze destroyed much of the city, taking countless lives, and some believe that the tragedy left behind more than just burned buildings. Those who walk the street at night speak of strange shadows that do not belong to anyone. Some have felt sudden chills, the kind that creep up your neck and make your skin crawl. Others hear faint whispers that rise and fall with the wind, almost as if the lost souls of the fire are trying to speak. Some say they have seen figures of men and women running along the street, faces twisted in terror, disappearing before anyone can reach them. There are also reports of ghostly flames flickering in the windows of abandoned buildings, even though no fire exists. The heat is felt for only a moment, followed by freezing cold. Paranormal investigators have captured strange recordings here. Voices murmur through the air when no one is around, and the sound of hurried footsteps echoes along the cobblestones. Pudding Lane is a place where the past never sleeps. People claim that if you listen closely, you can hear the screams of those trapped in the fire, and sometimes, a shadow appears to block your path as if warning you not to walk further. Locals avoid the street late at night. Tourists sometimes report feeling eyes watching them, and some refuse to go back after their first visit. Number 4. The Shambles, York. The Shambles in York is one of the oldest streets in the United Kingdom. Its narrow cobblestones and overhanging buildings have survived centuries, carrying the weight of countless stories, some far darker than the quaint shops suggest today. By day it is lively and full of tourists, but at night, it becomes a place where shadows stretch unnaturally, and whispers seem to come from the very walls. Local legends speak of merchants and residents who lived here hundreds of years ago, their spirits trapped between life and death. Many visitors report seeing shadowy figures darting between the buildings, figures that vanish when approached. Some describe hearing faint laughter or cries, echoing from corners that should be empty. Others have felt cold hands brush against them, as if someone unseen walked too close. The street's history adds to the unease. The Shambles was once home to butchers, and stories tell of blood-soaked floors and the screams of animals. Some believe that the spirits of the people who lived and worked there were affected by the harshness and cruelty of the times. At night, the air is thick with a sense of being watched. Tourists have reported doors opening on their own and shadows moving across shop windows. One local claims that late one evening, he saw a hooded figure standing under an overhang. When he tried to speak, the figure turned and disappeared, leaving behind only a sudden gust of cold air. Others have heard footsteps echoing along the street when no one else is around. Even the wind seems to carry whispers that cannot be explained. The Shambles reminds us that even streets that seem charming and historic can hide centuries of sorrow and fear. Number 5. High Street, Hastings. High Street in Hastings is a place where history and hauntings collide in the most unsettling way. By day, it is a busy thoroughfare lined with shops, cafes, and tourists enjoying the seaside town. By night, however, it transforms. The mist that often rolls in from the English Channel carries whispers, footsteps, and the faint clatter of armor that should not exist anymore. Locals speak of ghostly soldiers who march along the street, shadows of men who fought in battles long ago. Some say these phantoms appear fully dressed in military uniforms from centuries past, faces pale and eyes hollow. Witnesses have reported feeling the ground tremble as if boots were striking the cobblestones, yet when they look, no one is there. Others describe hearing orders shouted, the clash of swords, and the clinking of weapons, sounds that vanish as soon as they turn a corner. It is not just soldiers who haunt High Street. Some pedestrians report sudden chills, as if invisible hands brush against them. Doors creak open on their own, and shop windows reflect figures that are not standing nearby. One resident tells of seeing a young woman in a Victorian dress walking along the street in the fog, only to vanish when a car passed through the mist. There are even tales of strange lights flickering along the lane, resembling torches or lanterns held by spirits retracing steps they once walked in life. Paranormal investigators have captured disembodied voices calling out from nowhere, sometimes repeating names or phrases from long ago. Locals swear that anyone walking alone after midnight can feel a presence behind them, moving in step, watching, waiting. High Street in Hastings is a reminder that the past never truly leaves. The streets we walk every day can carry echoes of battles, sorrow, and death that reach across centuries. The fog, the shadows, and the faint sounds of marching boots serve as warnings to those who dare wander alone. As we leave the phantom soldiers and fog behind, the next street awaits. Its shadows are darker, its whispers sharper, and its spirits are said to be far more restless. Step carefully because the next haunted street is even harder to leave behind. Number 6. Church Street, Stratford-upon-Avon. Church Street in Stratford-upon-Avon is famous for its connection to William Shakespeare, but beyond the history and literature, The street carries whispers of restless spirits. At night, when the crowds vanish and the lamps flicker, the cobblestones seem to murmur stories of sorrow, betrayal, and untimely death. Locals speak of ghostly figures appearing near the old parish church and along the narrow alleyways branching off the main street. One of the most reported sightings is of a woman in black, drifting silently, her face pale and eyes hollow. She is said to appear where tragedies occurred centuries ago, silently mourning events long forgotten by history books. The street has also been the site of unexplained footsteps, sudden cold spots, and whispers that seem to call out from empty doorways. Visitors describe seeing shadows that move against the flow of traffic, always just at the edge of vision, vanishing when you try to look directly at them. Some even claim to have heard distant laughter, soft but eerie, echoing through the silent night, as if actors from a bygone era were performing unseen. Church Street's haunted reputation is not limited to one spirit. Some say the energy of the street carries many souls, tied to untold stories of love lost, secrets hidden, and lives cut short. One man recounted walking alone after dark and feeling an icy hand brush against his shoulder, yet no one was there. Another visitor saw a shadowy figure leaning against a building, only to vanish when approached, leaving behind a sudden gust of cold air. As you imagine walking down Church Street at night, it is easy to feel the weight of history pressing in. Every step could awaken a ghost from the past, every alley could hide a story better left untold. Number 7. Wadling Street, Wroxeter. Wadling Street in Wroxeter is an ancient road, built by the Romans and used for centuries as a main route across England. Its cobblestones have felt the weight of countless feet, wheels, and hooves, and some say the past has never left. By night, the road is quiet, but locals warn that the shadows that stretch across it are not always human. Legends speak of phantom horsemen, soldiers from Roman times who march along the road in perfect formation. Witnesses describe seeing armored figures riding ghostly horses, their armor glinting in the moonlight even when no moon is out. The sound of hooves and armor can be heard echoing along the lane, growing louder as you approach, only to vanish when you turn to look. Others have reported hearing the march of unseen soldiers, the clatter of weapons, and faint voices issuing commands, as if an army from centuries ago is replaying its journey over and over. Some travelers feel a sudden cold that presses against their chest and follows them as they walk, like the spirits themselves are keeping pace. One account tells of a young couple driving along the road late at night. As they rounded a bend, they saw a line of figures on horseback in the distance. Before they could react, the figures disappeared, leaving only the smell of damp earth and something metallic in the air. Another story speaks of a lone walker who saw shadows moving across the fields beside the road. When he tried to approach, the figures scattered and the wind seemed to whisper in a language no living person could understand. Wadling Street is more than a road. It is a corridor through time, where the dead still walk and history refuses to stay buried. Every step along this ancient path carries the echoes of countless lives, battles, and tragedies. As we leave the phantom horsemen behind, the next haunted street awaits. Its stones are older, its secrets darker, and those who tread there report encounters they cannot explain. The next street will take us even deeper into the shadows of Britain's haunted past. Number 8. Bluebell Hill, Kent. Bluebell Hill is not just a road, it is a place where the living and the dead seem to collide. Stretching through the Kent countryside, this road is known for its sharp bends, dense fog, and a string of tragic accidents over the years. Locals rarely travel it at night, not because of the drive itself, but because of what they claim to see and hear along the way. The most common reports speak of phantom figures appearing suddenly on the road. Drivers have described seeing shadowy shapes crossing in front of them, only for the space to be empty seconds later. Some say these figures are men and women dressed in old-fashioned clothing, often appearing as if frozen in time, staring at the approaching cars with hollow eyes. The road is also associated with ghostly vehicles. Witnesses report seeing cars that appear out of nowhere, lights blazing, only to vanish into the night or pass through the living without leaving a trace. Some drivers experience mechanical failures or sudden chills, as if the road itself is alive and aware of their presence. Stories from locals tell of hearing whispers carried by the wind, strange laughter, or crying that seems to come from the trees lining the road. One account describes a woman driving alone who saw a young girl in white standing in the middle of the road. When she stopped, the figure vanished into the fog, leaving only damp footprints on the tarmac. Others have reported seeing a procession of spectral figures moving silently along the hill, as if enacting a ceremony that no living person should witness. Bluebell Hill carries centuries of history and tragedy, and the spirits are said to roam freely. Those who walk or drive it stretch after dark often speak of feeling eyes on them, the air growing heavy, and shadows moving against the flow of the wind. As we leave the restless spirits of Bluebell Hill behind, the next street awaits. Its whispers are older, its shadows longer, and its ghosts are more restless than ever. Prepare yourself. Number 9, Regent Street, London. Regent Street is famous for its elegance, bright lights, and bustling crowds, but at night, when the city quiets, it takes on a far darker presence. Beneath the glamour, locals tell stories of restless spirits who wander the empty streets, trapped between the world of the living and the shadows of their past. People walking alone have reported hearing footsteps echoing behind them, quick and deliberate, even when no one is near. Turn around and the street is empty. Some have glimpsed figures in old-fashioned clothing fading into shop windows or disappearing around corners. The most common sighting is that of a tall man in a dark coat who walks silently, only to vanish when approached, leaving behind a cold chill and a feeling of being watched. Some claim to have felt invisible hands brush against them or sensed sudden pressure, like someone was standing just out of sight. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplained voices, whispers repeating names or phrases, and even the faint clinking of coins as if from a bygone era. Others have reported fleeting shadows that move across walls and windows, always just at the edge of vision. One visitor told of staying late for a night photo shoot. While setting up the camera, he felt a hand tap his shoulder. When he spun around, no one was there. Later, the camera captured a faint, blurred figure behind him, one that no one else saw. Others have walked the street and felt compelled to leave as quickly as possible, saying the air felt heavy and the darkness unusually thick. Regent Street reminds us that even places full of life can carry echoes of tragedy and fear. The past never fully disappears, and some spirits refuse to rest, wandering the very streets we walk every day. Number 10, Dunwich Street, Suffolk. Dunwich Street in Suffolk is unlike any other street in the UK. Once a thriving coastal village, much of it has been claimed by the sea over the centuries. Today, only remnants remain, but the stories and spirits have not vanished. Locals and visitors alike report seeing buildings that appear and disappear, as if the village itself is trapped between two worlds, the past and the present. The street is haunted by the spirits of those lost to the encroaching waters. On foggy nights, witnesses hear whispers and cries carried from the sea, some calling out names or pleading for help. Travelers have reported feeling sudden chills, hearing footsteps on sand where no one walks, and seeing shadowy figures moving among ruins that were long washed away. Some claim to have encountered apparitions of villagers dressed in centuries-old clothing, wandering aimlessly along the shoreline or peering from windows of buildings that no longer exist. Boats drift along the water, seemingly empty, yet the sounds of rowing and distant laughter echo across the waves. One visitor described seeing a figure step out of the mist, its face pale and expressionless, before dissolving into the night air. Dunwich Street is a reminder that nature and history can merge to create a haunting unlike any other. The sea takes what it wants, but the souls of those lost linger, restless, refusing to leave. Some say if you listen closely, you can hear the ebb and flow of the tide carrying whispered warnings, the stories of tragedy repeating endlessly for anyone brave enough to walk the deserted lanes. As we leave the drowned spirits and vanishing buildings behind, it is clear that some streets are never truly empty. The echoes of the past linger, reminding us that the living and the dead sometimes share the same path, and that some doors once opened never close. We have walked together through the most haunted streets in the United Kingdom, places where shadows linger, whispers drift through the air, and the past refuses to rest. From the phantom soldiers of Wadling Street to the drowned spirits of Dunwich, each street carries its own dark story, a chilling reminder that history and hauntings are never far apart. Now take a moment to imagine walking these streets alone at night. Could you feel the cold brush of unseen hands? Would you hear footsteps that do not belong to anyone living? Each story we have shared tonight is rooted in legend, eyewitness accounts, and the chilling experiences of those who dared to explore these haunted paths. Some streets are easy to walk during the day, but at night, when the fog settles and the lights flicker, you realize that the city you know is layered with history, and some of it refuses to fade. The shadows we spoke of, the vanishing figures, the ghostly whispers, they are all warnings and reminders that the past is never fully gone. Which of these streets gave you the shivers? Which story made your heart skip a beat or left you glancing over your shoulder? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you ever felt the presence of something unseen while walking alone? Your stories might just add to the legends. If you want more spine-chilling journeys into the haunted corners of the UK and beyond, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. There are many more shadows waiting to be revealed, and next time, we will take you even deeper into places where the living and the dead collide. Remember, some streets are easy to walk by day, but at night, the stories are alive. Step carefully and keep your eyes open because the next haunting is closer than you think.